Ferrari, have you learned nothing? Another race weekend has come and gone, this time in Miami, and somehow, Ferrari have managed to get even worse. I actually didn't think it was possible, but leave it to Ferrari to redefine disappointment again. We saw a team in Miami that looked utterly lost. Qualifying was underwhelming, the race pace was forgettable, the strategic calls were once again too much pondering. I think Lewis described it perfectly.
Of the cars
have a tea break while you're at it. Come on.
The only decent thing Ferrari can take away from Miami is Lewis Hamilton's P3 in the sprint. And again, that was more down to Lewis's experience and making the right decisions, rather than Ferrari's competence. And don't even get me started on Ferrari signing Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton out on inters for the sprint, where Charles aquaplaned and Lewis almost did the same. Once again, Ferrari, have you learned nothing? They weren't in the fight for the podium, they weren't in the fight with Red Bull or McLaren, not really even Mercedes. Instead, they were stuck kind of in no man's land. They had a chance of catching Antonelli, but they were just incompetent with their decisions once again. They've somehow managed to design a car that's painfully average, and for Ferrari, average is unacceptable. The most painful part of this for me is just looking at where Ferrari were at the end of last season. They were right there with McLaren, and fast forward a few months and not only have they fallen off, they've willingly taken themselves out of the conversation. They decided to completely redesign the SF24, a full rehaul, and for what basically? To fall backwards. They've gone from fighting for podiums to basically praying for points after a full rebuild. That is a disaster. What I really just don't understand is who on earth at Ferrari decided that this was a good decision. Redesigning your car just a year before a major regulation change makes zero sense to me. They say that it was their only option for further development, but I just find this hard to be true, because when you compare them to the other teams, was there really no way to continue their development on the SF24? A car which they knew, a car which they understood, but instead they're left with a car that they don't really understand, and by the time they figure it out, it's probably going to be too late. Just a season wasted. Now I want to talk about Fréd Vasseur because he's not off the hook either. He's been in the role long enough now that this is his team, and we can't really blame Binotto anymore for Ferrari's past. This car, his team signed off on it. These decisions are his, this is his direction, this strategy is his vision, or lack thereof. The team is still riddled with the same old issues: poor strategy calls, inconsistent communication, a general lack of urgency. How many more races do we need to see Ferrari make multiple mistakes over a race weekend with no lessons learned? And even Fred in his comments recently just seems to be a little bit deluded in my opinion. He seems convinced that the car they have is strong enough to compete.
If you consider the reference is Red Bull and Mercedes, I think we are in the ballpark, and we can fight with them if we are a better starting position. If you consider the reference is McLaren, today it was a bit more difficult.
He keeps saying this, but the proof is showing otherwise. Ferrari don't just have a car problem, they're having a leadership problem. Now I will give Fred some credit because he did do a lot of work to get Ferrari back on track, but they're slowly falling back into the same old problems, and it's becoming a big issue. Now I want to talk about Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc. Leclerc as always is dragging every last tenth out of the car. He's been the face of Ferrari's efforts for years now, and even in a struggling SF25, he's finding pace where it barely exists, which we all come to expect from Leclerc, but even he is getting increasingly frustrated with Ferrari. Then there's Lewis Hamilton. Let's be real for a second, anyone who was expecting him to just walk in and dominate or beat Leclerc from day one were kidding themselves. He stepped into a completely different car philosophy with different tools and a team still figuring itself out. But even with all of that, he pretty much matched Leclerc all weekend in Miami and secured P3 in the sprint. So no, his struggles aren't just Lewis being past it. He's adapting and adapting quickly in a car that isn't giving him anything to work with. If anything, this shows his experience and consistency more than anything else. I'm now pretty confident to say that the car is the problem, not the drivers. It has now been 17 years since Ferrari last won a championship. Think about that for a second. Kids who were born the last time Ferrari won a championship are now old enough to drive. That's almost the same age as Kimi Antonelli. It's just crazy. But yeah, every year the Tifosi show up, they believe, they support, they hope, and every year Ferrari let them down. It's becoming really laughable at this point. This isn't just about one bad weekend in Miami. This is about a team that hasn't lived up to its legacy in almost 2 decades. And honestly, they seem no closer to doing so today than they were 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, or last year. It's a lot of false promises and false hope. Ferrari were so close to greatness last year, and all they had to do was just continue that. And with a 7-time world champion joining, everything seemed like it would align for them. But I think we forgot to remember it's Ferrari we were talking about. This year still doesn't have to be a write-off for Ferrari either, but they will soon start running out of races to really impact this season before all the pressure starts going into 2026. And if they fail in 2026, I would really hate to be Fréd Vasseur, because the pressure is going to be crazy. Ferrari just need to stop trying to be clever, stop trying to reinvent the wheel, and just start building consistency. They need to accept that their problems are deep and strategic, not just technical. Because unless something changes fast, that next title, it's not coming anytime soon. They have the best driver pairing on the grid, in my opinion, and they're just wasting it at this moment in time. Ferrari fans deserve better, the sport deserves better, and frankly, Ferrari should demand better from themselves. But for now, it's just disappointment again. But who knows, maybe Ferrari can turn their seasons around. I want to see Ferrari succeed. I am a Ferrari fan, and so many other people are. Even if Ferrari aren't their main bias or they aren't the biggest fans of Ferrari, everyone wants to see Ferrari compete and be there. But to be at the back of the top 10 and fighting with the midfield teams, and Williams have seemingly overtook them or just about on average pace with them, it is really not good enough, and they really need to sort their problems out, because it's just unacceptable from where they were last year to where they are this year. I really can't get my head around it. And honestly, it's kind of similar to Aston Martin, how they were so good and they've fallen off. Honestly, don't get me started on Aston Martin again, because them and Ferrari just both incompetent and have fumbled it way beyond belief. But anyways, that's it for my video today. If you liked it, make sure to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe if you're not subscribed. Most of you who watch aren't subscribed, and I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers. It would mean the world to me if you would join. Let me know your thoughts down below. Once again, I would love to know them. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video.